What?
Let's make something painfully clear. You've been lying to yourself. And the worst part is, you know it. You pretend everything's fine. You tell yourself you're doing your best. You repeat mantras about self-love and growth and authenticity. But deep down, something feels off, doesn't it? There's a quiet discomfort under all your affirmations, a voice you try to ignore, but it keeps whispering the same thing. You're not being honest. Let me ask you something, and answer it without flinching. How many times have you justified staying in a relationship that was rotting you from the inside out? How many times have you convinced yourself that playing it safe was smart, when really you were just afraid? How many times have you clung to a version of yourself that's comfortable, but not real? Let's call it what it is. You are not who you think you are. You're who you've trained yourself to believe you are. Through repetition, denial, and carefully crafted stories. This is the brutal truth. Most people believe self-deception protects them, but in reality, it chains them to failure, fear, and mediocrity. And what makes it worse is that it feels good. That's why it works. The lie is sweet. The truth is acidic. But you already know that. Every time you lie to yourself, you feel a moment of relief. But it always comes with a cost. A quiet erosion of self-respect. A silent decay of potential. A betrayal that happens in the mirror. And still, you keep doing it. Because you're a liar. Here's the lie that's been sold to you. And worse, the one you bought without asking questions. It's okay to protect yourself from pain. You're being kind to yourself. Give it time. Be gentle. You'll grow when you're ready. Sounds nice, doesn't it? It's not kindness. It's cowardice dressed up in self-care slogans. It's hiding from the truth while calling it healing. Self-deception doesn't protect you. It delays the pain. And by the time it catches up, it's 10 times worse. Think about this. That friend who keeps saying, "I know I should leave," but stays anyway. They're not protecting their heart. They're protecting the illusion of who they think they are. Someone who's in control. Someone who's rational. Someone who's fine. But they're not fine. And neither are you. Not if you're living under that same illusion. Jung called it clearly. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Because facing it means looking at the parts of you that are insecure, manipulative, afraid, resentful, selfish. All the things your carefully polished identity was built to cover up. Self-deception is the internal PR machine of the ego. Its only job is to keep you comfortable. And comfort, unchecked, kills evolution. Let me say that again. Comfort kills evolution. You don't lie to yourself because you're dumb. You lie to yourself because you're scared. Because some part of you knows, deep down, that if you told yourself the truth about your relationship, your work, your habits, your weaknesses, you'd have to change. And change is painful. Change means breaking things, ending things, admitting that you wasted time, that you were wrong, that you failed. It's easier to lie. It's easier to say, "It's not that bad. I just need to be more patient. I'm working on it." At least I'm aware of the problem. Everyone struggles with this. And meanwhile, you're bleeding internally, telling yourself the wound is just a scratch. Here's the reality. You don't avoid pain by lying to yourself. You just defer it. And when it returns, it comes back bigger, sharper, and more humiliating. Because by then, you've added another layer to your suffering. Shame. Shame that you knew. Shame that you saw the signs and chose blindness. Shame that you betrayed yourself for comfort. So no, self-deception isn't a protection, it's a sedative. And like all sedatives, it wears off. And when it does, you wake up in the same mess. Only now it's worse because it's yours. You chose it. But here's the twist. The fact that you're still lying to yourself doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Self-deception isn't a glitch. It's a feature. We're wired to avoid psychological pain, to maintain a sense of coherence, identity, and stability. Your brain would rather bend reality than let your ego collapse. And that's why you must train yourself to override the lie. You can't wait to feel ready to face the truth. You won't. Courage comes first. Clarity comes second. You want to evolve. You want to be powerful. You want to walk into a room and not feel like a fraud. Then you have to start where it hurts the most. You have to look at the parts of yourself you've been hiding from. And you have to do it without flinching. Because until you stop running from your own reflection, you'll never stop being a prisoner to it. The version of yourself you've built in your mind is a work of fiction, a comfortable, curated persona. Not who you are, just who you need to believe you are in order to keep functioning. Think about it. You don't remember your past objectively. You don't interpret your actions fairly. You don't see yourself clearly, because clarity is a threat to your identity. So what do? You rewrite, you revise, you edit out the weak moments, the petty thoughts, the ugly desires, until what you're left with is this filtered, socially acceptable version of you. I'm a good person. I mean well. I'm not perfect, but at least I'm honest. No, you're not. Not with yourself. You hide behind those stories like armor. Because deep down, there's a darker truth you're terrified to admit. You are capable of things you'd rather not see. Envy, manipulation, cowardice, cruelty, self-sabotage. These aren't just traits that other people have. They're in you too. And the more you deny them, the more they control you from the shadows. Carl Jung called this the shadow self, the unconscious parts of us we reject and repress, usually because they don't fit the narrative we've crafted. You don't see yourself as manipulative, so when you guilt-trip someone, you call it honest expression. You don't see yourself as envious, so when you criticize others, you tell yourself it's about standards. You don't see yourself as weak, so when you procrastinate or avoid a hard conversation, you call it waiting for the right time. Lies. Elegant, well-packaged, self-soothing lies. The problem with self-deception is that it doesn't just hide the ugly, it hides the potential. Because until you own your whole self, you'll never operate at full power. You'll always be fragmented. Half-truths, half-measures, half-life. Let me say something that most self-help won't. You can't heal what you won't admit. You can't evolve from what you won't own. And you will never, never be free while hiding from yourself. Stop playing therapist to your flaws. Start being surgeon. Now here's where it gets darker. The world wants you to keep lying to yourself. Not because it cares about you, but because it's easier to control a self-deceived population. You think authenticity is valued? It's not. Performance is. Society doesn't want your truth. It wants your output. It wants your brand, your productivity, your curated opinions, your filtered face. Go on social media and tell the raw, vulnerable, messy truth of your life. See how many people stay around. Now smile, say something motivational, and hashtag it with hashtag growth mindset. And watch the algorithm bless you. That's not authenticity. You've been trained since birth to wear the mask. At school, don't speak out of line. At work, don't challenge the narrative. On dates, be charming, not real. With friends, be relatable, not honest. And here's the part that stings. You're not just performing for others, you're performing for yourself. You've become an actor in your own life. You look in the mirror and see the character, not the core. And society, it rewards this. You get promoted for pretending to care. You get liked for pretending to be happy. You get applauded for saying what everyone already agrees with. Meanwhile, truth-tellers are labeled difficult. People with integrity are seen as inconvenient. Those who confront uncomfortable reality are dismissed as negative or too intense, because the world doesn't want awareness. It wants obedience with a smile. So the lie becomes profitable. The mask becomes necessary. And the truth becomes a threat. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And here's the twist. You think you're protecting yourself by going along with it. You think blending in keeps you safe. But what it really does is bury you alive. Bit by bit, year by year, you trade your authenticity for acceptance. Until one day you wake up and realize you've spent your whole life being liked, but never known. And it eats you alive from the inside. You know what's scarier than being rejected for who you are? Being accepted for who you're not. That's the price of self-deception. It gives you a seat at the table, but only if you leave your real self outside the door. You don't avoid the truth because it's unclear. You avoid it because it would shatter you. You already know. Deep down, in those quiet moments when the noise fades and the distractions aren't loud enough, you feel it. The relationship is dead. You're not happy. You've become soft. You're scared of risk. You've built a personality to cover up your fear of being seen. You feel it, and then you run from it. Why? Because the truth threatens everything you've built around the lie. Admitting the truth means rewriting your entire story. It means destroying the image you've worked your whole life to protect. So instead, you cling to the fake version of yourself like a lifeboat, hoping no one sees the cracks. But here's the brutal reality. The longer you delay the truth, the more it owns you. You don't manage the lie. It manages you. It decides what risks you take, what people you attract, what opportunities you reject before they can even show up. You think you're avoiding pain, but you're not. You're postponing it, and while it waits, it compounds interest. Jung didn't sugarcoat this either. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. If you want clarity, you have to bleed for it. You don't become powerful by affirming your strengths. You become powerful by confronting your darkness and refusing to be ruled by it. Because until you face your shadow, until you turn and look directly at what you've buried, You will always be at war with yourself. And that war is exhausting. It's why you're tired. It's why you're unfulfilled. It's why your wins feel hollow and your progress never sticks. Because deep down, a part of you knows it's not real. It's not grounded in truth. It's built on a carefully constructed version of yourself that doesn't even exist. Let me be clear. You don't need more motivation. You need confrontation. Not from others, from yourself. You need to sit in the discomfort of truth and let it burn away the illusion. Because truth doesn't destroy you. It destroys who you're not. And that's what scares you the most. Here's the sick twist. You've turned self-deception into a strategy, a tactic, a method for avoiding consequences while pretending to pursue growth. You say things like, "I'm working on it. I just need more time. I'm not ready to deal with that yet." What you really mean is, "I'd rather protect my ego than fix the problem." Let's call it what it is. Strategic avoidance. A system of justifications to keep the lie intact without feeling guilty. You even use self-awareness as a decoy. You think saying, "Yeah, I know I tend to procrastinate," somehow earns you a pass. It doesn't. Being aware of your flaws means nothing if you still choose them every day. You've become addicted to comfort, addicted to the illusion of being in progress. It feels safer than confronting the truth that maybe, just maybe, you've been stuck in the same emotional, professional, and personal loops for years. But you wrap it in language that sounds noble. You call it growth. You call it processing. You call it boundaries. You call it self-love. It's not. It's strategic stagnation. Here's what you need to hear. You're not making progress. You're rehearsing your excuses. And the world, this fake, filtered, fragile world, rewards you for it. It hands you dopamine for surface-level insight. It praises vulnerability that doesn't lead to change. It turns self-deception into content. Perform your pain, and you'll be seen. But being seen isn't the same as being free. You want real strategy. You want real power. Here's the shift. Stop using lies as armor and start using truth as a weapon. That doesn't mean walking around dumping your trauma on everyone. It means seeing yourself clearly and acting from that clarity, not hiding from it. Because truth is brutal, yes, but it's also precision. It cuts away what's false. It exposes weakness, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. You've spent so long trying to look put together that you forgot the one thing that actually moves you forward. Radical, surgical self-honesty. The kind that makes you uncomfortable. The kind that makes you want to scream. The kind that breaks your image so your real self can breathe again. You don't need more confidence. You need more accuracy. Confidence built on lies is fragile. Confidence built on truth is unbreakable. So ask yourself, what truths have you buried under "I'm fine"? What lies do you keep telling yourself because they're easier to live with than reality? What are you pretending not to know? Because every lie you hold on to is a chain you refuse to break. And the longer you wear those chains, the more they feel like part of you. But they're not. They never were. And the moment you stop pretending, you become dangerous. So what now? You've peeled back the mask. You've seen the rot under the surface. You've realized that much of what you call you is just a collection of stories, fears, and self-preserving lies. Here's the question. Will you use that awareness to destroy yourself or to reinvent yourself? Because that's the choice. The moment you face the truth, you reach a fork in the road. One path leads to shame, collapse, paralysis. The other leads to power, precision, rebirth. Here's how you choose the second one. You stop viewing your darkness as something to fix and start seeing it as something to master. You've been running from the shadow. What if you learned to speak its language? What if your insecurities weren't enemies, but maps? What if your rage wasn't proof you're broken, but a signal something sacred is being violated? What if your self-deception wasn't a flaw, but a compass pointing to where your identity needs to evolve? This is what Jung meant when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You want to be free? Then you would need to stop fearing the truth and start using it. Use it to cut ties with fake relationships. Walk away from roles you've outgrown. Say no with conviction. Set goals that reflect who you really are, not who you're trying to impress. Because here's the paradox. The more truth you allow into your life, the more control you gain over it. Most people think awareness is weakness. That overthinking, overanalyzing, being too deep makes you soft. They're wrong. Awareness makes you lethal. It gives you options. It reveals leverage. It shows you the moves on the board that no one else sees, because they're too busy protecting the story. You want to stop being played. You want to stop being manipulated, overlooked, underestimated. Then become someone who can't be lied to, especially by themselves. Because once you break that habit, once you make truth your baseline, the world starts bending differently around you. You move with intention. You choose your words with weight. You enter rooms and no longer shrink, not because you believe you're perfect, but because you know exactly who you are. And that kind of presence, it's unshakable. But let's rewind and remind you of what's at stake. Because if you are still flirting with the idea of, maybe I'll change later, if you're still telling yourself, I'll sit with this, but I'm not ready to act yet, let me rip the veil off one more time. Here's what your self-deception is costing you. Time. Years you'll never get back because you spent them perfecting the lie. Energy. The daily exhaustion of maintaining an identity you don't even believe in. Love. Because no one can fully love you when you won't even show up as yourself. Respect. Yours and theirs. Growth. Because you can't evolve from what you refuse to admit. You think you're being careful. You think you're waiting for the right time. You think you're being strategic. You're not. You're just delaying the collapse of your fantasy. And every day you do, you're digging the hole deeper. Until one day you look around and realize you built a whole life on top of a lie. A relationship you never really wanted. A career you settled for. A body you've abandoned. A reputation that doesn't reflect your values. A friend group that doesn't even know you. And the most dangerous part, You've learned how to survive in the illusion so well. You've forgotten what truth even feels like. You tell yourself, "I'm fine," but the voice inside you goes quiet, not because it agrees, but because it gave up trying to wake you. Let that sink in. You've ignored the signal so many times it stopped sending. You've lied to yourself so often, the truth no longer fights back. That's what self-deception steals from you. Not just your time, but your ability to return to yourself. But, and this is crucial, it's not too late. You can still turn. You can still tear it down. But you have to do it ruthlessly. Radical honesty is not a self-help technique. It's an act of war against everything false in you. Because here's the final truth. You didn't get stuck because you weren't capable. You got stuck because you lied to yourself about what you were willing to tolerate. You tolerated mediocrity. You tolerated fake friendships. You tolerated playing small. You tolerated patterns that made you hate your own reflection. Because pretending it was just a phase felt safer than admitting you were choosing it. Every day you stayed the same. You told yourself, "I don't have a choice." But you did. You still do. And now that you know it, you don't get to pretend you don't. This is the part where most people turn back, where they nod, agree, feel inspired, and then go right back to the lie. Because change, real change, it doesn't happen in books or quotes or motivational videos. It happens when you look at yourself in the mirror and finally refuse to look away. So let's make this simple. If you want to live a life of depth, power, and clarity, burn the mask. Stop trying to fix the image. Stop trying to be seen a certain way. Start being dangerous, not because you're reckless, but because you're real. There's a version of you that can't be manipulated, that doesn't fold under pressure, that doesn't explain themselves to people who aren't even listening. That version isn't out there. It's underneath, buried under years of pretending, suffocating under people-pleasing, silenced by the lie that you're fine just as you are. You're not fine. You're distracted. And self-deception is the most seductive distraction of all, because it doesn't look like a lie. It looks like peace. It feels like safety. But it's neither. It's a trap. And the longer you stay in it, the more your real life passes you by. Here's how you kill the trap. Own your entire story. Every contradiction, every weakness, every manipulation you've called coping, every truth you've buried under fake positivity. Because until you do, you're not the one living your life. Your illusion is. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But it's not a privilege you're given, it's one you fight for. Let's end this where it counts. What are you going to do now? You've seen the lie. You've felt the weight of it. You know the cost. So here's the final confrontation. Are you going to keep pretending, or are you finally going to start choosing yourself? Not the version of you others accept. Not the version of you that gets applause. Not the version that fits the box, plays the game, smiles at the right moments and swallows the rage. You. Raw, unfiltered, honest, unapologetic. That version. It's terrifying because it doesn't perform. It doesn't bend to be liked. It doesn't explain itself to people too shallow to understand it. But it's the only version that will ever make you feel alive. And if you don't choose it now, if you turn back, pretend this was just another interesting idea, let me tell you exactly what will happen. You'll keep waking up tired. You'll keep attracting people who match your mask, not your soul. You'll keep calling your own betrayal self-care. You'll keep talking about change, but never becoming it. You'll die full of potential, surrounded by people who never knew the real you, because you never had the courage to introduce them. But if you choose differently, if you choose to face the truth, rip off the mask, and walk into the fire of your own becoming, everything changes. Not immediately, not neatly, but permanently. You'll lose people. You'll lose comfort. You'll lose the life you built while pretending. But what you gain yourself. Fully. Finally. Forever. You become the kind of person who can't be broken, not because they're invincible, but because they've faced the truth and refused to run. You become the kind of person who doesn't chase validation, because they've built something more valuable than approval. Integrity. And people feel that. You'll walk differently, speak differently, take up space without asking permission, not because you're better, but because you're real. And in a world of replicas, illusions, and polished lies, realness is power. So here's your final decision. Will you go back to the sweet lies that have kept you small? Or will you step into the truth, knowing it will cost you everything fake and give you everything real? That's the trade, and no one can make it for you. If you're ready, really ready, I want you to drop this in the comments right now. I'd rather be broken by truth than protected by lies. Let's see who actually got it. Let's see who's done pretending. Let's see who's ready to stop existing and start living. Because the world doesn't remember those who fit in. It remembers those who wake up. And remember, don't just speak your truth. Live it.